Tonight, a different perspective. A pastor and an attorney give a man's take on marital rape. And we'll tell you how much longer retail grocers have before price control changes are made as negotiations with government continue. A woman on Grand Bahama is still missing after 2 months. Tonight, her son makes a plea for her safe return. And then in our news at 7:30, nearly 20 migrants hidden and harbored on Abaco. The immigration minister says it's time to end the practice. Our News at 7 starts now. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Kendino Knowles. Marital rape, a hot button topic being discussed across the nation, especially among those in the Christian community. A bill is currently out for consultation following the wide debate. Pastor T.G. Morrison and attorney John Bostwick speaking out on the issue during Jerome Sawyer's On the Record. Atalia Hall reports.
The notion of violence in a relationship, the notion of domination in a relationship, the notion of brutal force within the relationship is antithetical to the very essence of what constitutes marriage.
Pastor T.G. Morrison says the whole goal of marriage is for couples to not be embarrassed or ashamed. And the question has been asked whether a man can actually rape his wife. Well, Morrison says the answer is yes.
I struggle to see any Christian leader asking a man or a woman, and women in the main, because they are more oftentimes the victim of these heinous actions, asking any person to stay in those kinds of relationships.
Attorney John Bostwick says rape is a serious issue.
If it's possible in our Bahamas today to physically abuse your wife, to assault your wife, and go to jail for it, how could it not be recognized that it is also possible to rape your wife, which is to have intercourse with her without her consent? Is a nonsensical thing to me, and the fact that the debate is ongoing at this point in our history is fundamentally disturbing.
Bostwick is calling marital rape ancient and believes the act comes from slavery. He says many are running to the church and the Bible to justify their behavior.
You could probably find a scripture to justify any behavior, sadly. All right? So it's a relic. It needs to be abolished. It needs to be moved away from. And the fact that we have to bring law will tell you how much of a problem it is in our society.
That report there from our Atalia Hall. Well, the week is ending without a resolution for grocery retailers in their negotiations with government. Berthany McDermott has more on what this means for the association.
Grocery store operators given another extension, according to Communications Director Latrey Ramming.
We will extend the period of conversation to next week, Friday. The government realized and recognized that we share the burden with all of our partners in this effort in the fight against the global economic crisis, so they will get an extension to next week, Friday.
The government gave the association until today to return with a proposal after a strong pushback against the move to add 38 items to the price control list. Earlier this week, Economic Affairs Minister Michael Halkitis said the meeting between government and the association was fruitful. Following the announcement by the Prime Minister, retailers warned of possible layoffs and store closures if the price margins weren't instituted as planned.
What I can say is that the government recognized that we have to share the burden. The negotiations are ongoing. There is no final place that we have derived in negotiations, so I suspect that the stakeholders will put to the government their concerns, and the government will have to review any possible accommodation.
Now, according to the Communications Director, discussions will continue between government and the Retail Grocers Association until both sides can meet at a common ground. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Now, Ramming also confirming that a recent trip to Bermuda with the Prime Minister and other PLP cabinet ministers was paid for by the PLP. The group, which also included former Prime Minister Perry Christie, was to attend a political event for its party.
Insofar as the cost of the Bermuda trip from the Nassau Guardian, that cost was covered by the Progressive Civil Party, and all questions pertaining to that trip could be deferred to the organization.
All right, we've got more to get to in a moment, but for now, meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center with temperatures and how they're shaping up across the islands. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Kindian, and a happy Friday evening, everybody. Pretty nice on the outside right now. Temperatures at the 80-degree mark under partly cloudy skies. Your winds are now out of the west at 6 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature around 85 degrees. Temperatures around the remainder of the islands in Freeport, Grand Bahamas, 76, 80 in Alistown, Bimini. Over in Great Harbor Key, you're at 78. Marshall, Barbacoa, 79, and we pick up 78 in Nicholstown, here in the capital, 80, and across in Governor's Harbor, Luthra, you guys are 82 at this hour. 77 in Kemps Bay, we pick up 80 degrees across in Arthurstown, Cat Island, 82 in Georgetown, that's in Exumas, as well as in the Deadman's Key area, and across in Cobentown, San Salvador, 79 degrees into the southeast Bahamas. Temperatures near the 80, low 80s and mid 80s, 84 in Duncantown, Ragged Island, Colonel Hill, Cricket Island, 81, Delectable Bay, Acklands, you guys are 80, 79 in Abrams Bay, Matthewtown, Inagua, you are 82 at this hour, and our neighbors to the southeast, Turks and Caicos Islands, you are currently 83 right now. Satellite view across our area, we do have a frontal boundary. It's stalled across the central Bahamas, some moisture associated with that, and an upper level trough, triggering some showers and some isolated thunderstorms. We also have a low pressure system that's developing across the northwest Bahamas. That is also triggering some showers, and we have some wraparound moisture coming across Bimini, the Grand Bahama, as well as the Andros area, and they will continue to trigger some showers. Low pressure is expected to drift out towards the northeast and away from us, but that will in turn keep this frontal boundary cross area. So we're looking for some more showers later on tonight and into tomorrow. That's your check on weather. Stick with us, a look at the tropics, and your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, armed robbers target 2 restaurants, a business, and a convenience store in just over 24 hours. Details of the getaway car straight ahead. The family of Stephanie Chisholm say they are not giving up as the search for her continues 2 months after she was reported missing. And an advocate for the local disabled community speaking out on the lack of inclusivity in disaster preparedness. It's all coming up when Our News returns. Police are investigating 4 armed robberies in a 33-hour period. The first incident unfolding after 7 a.m. on Wednesday when police say 3 gunmen reportedly held up staff at a restaurant in Palmdale. Police say the suspects escaped with cash and staffers' personal items. In the second incident shortly after 10 a.m. in West New Providence, police say 2 men robbed a mobile takeaway of cash. And that's not all. They also took an employee's gray Toyota Ram truck with the license plate number 52AT5277. 8 hours later, a Blue Hill Road South business was also robbed at gunpoint. Police say the gunman, who was wearing dark clothing and wearing a gray backpack, entered and robbed staff of cash. The fourth robbery happened the next day at a convenience store on Palima Street off Nassau Street, and police say around 4 p.m. on Thursday, 2 suspects robbed the store of cash and fled in a silver vehicle. A government employee has denied trying to illegally stop automatic loan payments. Prosecutors say 48-year-old LaShawn Cash, who works in the Department of Environmental Services, brought a forged letter to her job which authorized the cancellation of salary deduction payments to Sunshine Insurance, or Sunshine Finance, that is. On the same day, she's accused of attempting to defraud the Department of Environmental Services $1,345, the amount of the deduction. Cash pleaded not guilty to charges of possession of a forged document, uttering a forged document, and attempted fraud at her arraignment before Magistrate Kendra Kelly. She was granted $4,000 bail pending her trial, which is scheduled to begin on February 15, 2023. A family in Grand Bahama needs your help tonight locating their missing loved one. Jamila Mizik spoke with the woman's son, who says while they've searched long and hard, they remain hopeful for her safe return.
She has been missing for more than 2 months now, but family members of 56-year-old Stephanie Chisholm are not giving up their search. Her son, Gerard Bethel, telling me today that search efforts have been going well, but information regarding her whereabouts remain limited. What makes matters worse is that Steffi has a mental illness.
She does have a challenge. She is diagnosed with schizophrenia. She's been that way about all my life. And she always also has her battles with drugs. So she's off and on drugs, but it's never been a situation where she's gone missing this long, or we haven't been able to go and find her wherever she is.
He says there is also the concern that someone may have hurt her.
We just want to bring this situation to closure and finding her. It becomes tiresome, but that's not gonna make us stop searching.
Currently, there is a $2,200 cash reward for any information that can help locate the Hannah Hill 8 Mile Rock resident. And as search efforts continue, her son says he's grateful for the overwhelming support.
Everyone that's been there each and every day that we have a search, no matter what time it is, they are there front and center. I just want to say a special thanks to them, and just seeing that it's encouraging to keep going.
Chisholm was last seen in the area of KFC downtown Freeport, an area she frequented often. If you have any information about the whereabouts of Stephanie Chisholm, you are asked to call police at 919 or 350-3106. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Missick.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as a new candidate announces a bid to become the next Prime Minister of the UK. Plus, 19 illegal migrants found on Abaco. Immigration officials revealed the details tonight. And you don't want to miss the doors UB is opening to help students find their dream job. The details when Our News returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our spotlight to stories making news across the world as within 24 hours of Liz Truss announcing her resignation as Prime Minister of the UK, members of her Conservative Party are already lining up to take the job, among them Minister Penny Mordaunt. But opinion polls show the party could be facing a complete wipeout at the next election, still years away. But by next week, the Conservatives will have to choose a successor for Truss, giving Britain its fifth Prime Minister in 6 years. Several British lawmakers, including scandal-tarnished former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, are jockeying for support. The governing Conservatives have ordered a lightning-fast race at a time Britain can ill afford uncertainty at the top post. Meanwhile, cost of living in the UK is still a pressing issue as some taxpayers lean on food banks for support.
The people that come into our food bank at the moment are really starting to express their concern with what's happening nationally and how it's impacting on them. And so I would really hope that message is heard and and resonates such that steps do need to be taken in order to support those households if they want to carry on maintaining their
still a struggle. Even though I'm work like 33 hours a week, it's still a struggle because all the bills gone up, food bills gone up. Obviously your children grow up as well, so they're eating more and all the rest of it. So you think to yourself, what do you put the money towards?
As U.S. midterm elections are underway, voters in 5 U.S. states will decide to close constitutional loopholes that led to a different form of slavery, forced labor by convicts of certain crimes. The effort is a part of a national plan to push to change the 13th Amendment that bans slavery and involuntary servitude, except as a form of criminal punishment. That exception has long permitted exploration of labor exploitation, that is, of labor by convicted felons. Now, if passed, none of the proposals would see immediate changes in state prisons. Nearly 20 states have language that include permitting slavery and voluntary servitude as criminal punishments. A number of southern states make up the 5, including Georgia. And despite her failed bid to become governor in 2018, former Georgia House Minority Leader Stacey Abrams was out early to vote in the midterms, still promoting the message of voter suppression.
I am proud this year that we are emphasizing early voting, but that we're also working hard across the board to make sure that people's voices are heard. As I said, voter suppression is not about turnout. It is about barriers to access. And unfortunately, there are new barriers to access in the state of Georgia.
7 political parties in the African country of Chad are now suspended from all political activities, a day after unprecedented protests left 60 people dead and hundreds injured. The government crackdown on prominent opposition leader Success Marsa included a search of his office. He tweeted that his party's national headquarters was being ransacked by security forces who forced their way in. His party was among the first suspended by Chad's government for 3 months. Demonstrations in the capital and several other cities broke out Thursday in protest against the interim leader extending his time in power by more than 2 years. The United Nations Security Council taking a major step in trying to curb the violence in Haiti. They approved a measure to freeze the assets, ban travel, and embargo arms on anyone threatening the peace and stability of our Caribbean neighbors. The country's most powerful gangster, Jimmy Chorizo, a former politician known as Barbecue, is the first target. The U.S. ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, described the sanctions as the initial answer to the calls for help. Haitians are struggling with an escalating humanitarian disaster compounded by a cholera outbreak, food and water shortages, and escalating violence. Honduran migrants joining the growing group of Venezuelans fleeing poverty heading to the United States. That's according to a U.S. migration official after a local TV station showed the group of mostly young Hondurans leaving the northern city of San Pedro de Sula looking to reach the United States. When the leftist president rose to power in Honduras in January, she promised measures to discourage mass migration. Close to 3/4 of the population lives in poverty and financial distress.
We just want to reach our destination. These people here will not stop until they reach their goal, to achieve a dream that all of us who are walking want to attain. If we need to walk all day and night until we reach the end, we will do it.
And back here at home, immigration officers discovering a safe house in Abaco where authorities say nearly 20 illegal migrants of different nationalities were being harbored. Immigration Minister Keith Bell.
They would have uncovered a safe house the following day where they would have revealed, I think, about 19 migrants of mixed nationalities.
Operation Expedition came after South and Central Abaco Member of Parliament John Pinder expressed concern over the shantytown issue on that island. Since Hurricane Dorian destroyed the mud and Pigeon Pea shantytowns, officials say they're seeing the emergence of more illegal communities in other areas of Marsh Harbor, like off SC Boodle Highway.
I want to invite the Bahamian people. We too have to become caretakers for our borders, for our country, against unscrupulous persons, including Bahamians, because these persons are being facilitated by Bahamians. And so if you have any information, if you have any intelligence, then by all means, please call the police, please call your defense force, or please call the immigration department, and we will act on your information.
Now, Minister Bell had much more to say about the issue. Tune in at Our News at 7:30 for a full report. Still to come in Our News, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was October 21st, including the birth of Swedish chemist and engineer Alfred Nobel in 1833. Plus, disaster preparedness and planning covers the entire Bahamas, but one group says it is left out at the most critical time. A Bahamian advocate speaks up. And then in Our News at 7:30, what was inside those citizenship documents that led to the arrest of several Coalition of Independence members? The immigration minister gives his take when Our News returns. Welcome back to Our News. It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was October 21st. Here are your interesting facts to note about this day in history. On this day in 1945, women voted for the first time in France almost 100 years after all men were given the right to vote in 1848. After World War II ended in 1944, suffrage for all women in France was granted when they were allowed to vote on this day in 1945. Then in 1940, the American musical film My Fair Lady, starring Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn, had its world premiere. The film became the second highest grossing film of 1964 and won 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Actor, and Best Director. And in 1833, Swedish chemist, engineer, and industrialist Alfred Nobel, who invented dynamite and other powerful explosives, and who also founded the Nobel Prizes, was born in Stockholm. Nobel had acquired 355 patents worldwide when he died in 1896. Plus, in 2000, the New York Yankees batter Jose Vizcaino drives home the winning run, marking the longest duration for a World Series game in baseball history. He is seen here yelling after driving in the game-winning run in the 12th inning at Yankee Stadium during Game 1 of the World Series in New York. And then in 2005, Shirley Horn, the American Grammy-winning jazz vocalist and pianist known for her intimate, whispery vocals and virtuoso piano playing, died at age 71. In this photo from the 1999 Grammy Awards in Los Angeles, Horn poses with her Grammy for Best Jazz Vocal Performance for I Remember Miles at the Shrine Auditorium. The Grammys have attracted musicians from all around the world as they gather to honor the best in their industry. Well, the Bahamas is no stranger to planning for disasters, but members of one group say they find themselves left out of the conversation. That's members of the disabled community. The Bahamas' very own Erin Brown, a disability inclusion consultant, has been advocating for disabled Bahamians for years and recently aired her views on the issue during an Al Jazeera live stream.
During Dorian, what we recognized, the barriers were also the communication, in the relief, finding who still is available, who still have access, what are their needs. Even in the shelters, having accessible bathroom, being able to bring the additional equipment that you would need when you are going to a shelter.
Brown continued, noting we have to continue to speak about barriers and gaps that exist, not limited to physical and infrastructural issues. She says policies and practices do not speak to people with disabilities during an emergency or a disaster. That also means having a register of disabled people in the country, but there are hurdles with that also.
We're also looking at ways of registering. So some of our impactful ways right now, because data collection and disaggregated data is absolutely important. And so registering persons with disabilities, helping to build that trust, because if I don't trust the system, I'm not going to register. I'm not going to let you know what my equitable needs are in order for you to provide it.
To find the link to that full live stream, visit ournews.bs. What's next? It's the question put to students at the University of the Bahamas through several career-focused initiatives this week, including its annual career fair. Jamila Missick was there.
Hundreds of UB students getting an opportunity today to meet with some 38 companies, all in hopes of securing the job of their dreams.
University of the Bahamas Career and Job Placement Counselor Dr. Willissa Mackey says the annual event helps to give students insight on the opportunities available to them locally.
We have organizations out here, of course, targeting entry-level students and and they are interviewing in some cases showcasing what's available to the students, but it's an opportunity for exposure for our students and networking and talent scouting for our organizations.
Sophomore Damari Johnson is pursuing a computer information systems degree. He says he's using the career fair as a networking tool.
I'm very pleased, it's a lot of opportunities out there. A lot of people have the potential but not exposed to it. So this is a great example or a great way to, promote yourself.
Companies like CMEX Bahamas and Royal Caribbean were also on hand, offering internship programs.
To be very honest, a lot of students didn't know who we were, so I'm glad that we're here. This is our first time and it definitely won't be the last, especially the engineering students, to see that they had the opportunity. I have a list of internship and it's completely filled, so it's just to show persons that we have the opportunities right here in the Bahamas, and we just need them to know where they are so they can focus on those.
So that we are wishing to partner with the University of the Bahamas through our internship program that we hope to launch in May of 2023. This is going to, of course, showcase Royal Caribbean to a lot of university students, where they'll be able to come on our island in Coco Key to, of course, partner and be able to get a job, hopefully, once they finish their degree programs.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Missick.
All right, thanks, Jamila. And to watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. That does it for us in News at 7. Joining us now is our Atalia Hall with the latest headlines. Atalia?
Thanks, Ken. We've got a lot to get to, including that big discovery over in Abaco as a safe house for illegal migrants was found. Busted, an illegal migrant shelter discovered on Abaco as officials make a plea for the end to the harboring of illegal migrants, and why Minister Keith Bell says there's nothing new in the coalition of independent citizenship documents that led to the showdown and arrest outside Parliament this week. And a surprising discovery as a building in Chippenham is demolished. We'll tell you what construction workers handed over to police. And making healthy choices in the kitchen as some primary school students became chefs for the day. Our News at 7:30 starts in a moment. Welcome to Our News, and thank you for joining us. I'm Atalia Hall. While the immigration minister pleading with residents to alert authorities about cases of illegal immigrants who are being illegally harbored, he made the age-old pleas while telling reporters a migrant safe house was discovered in Abaco. Bertha McDermott reports.
Immigration officers discovering a safe house in Abaco where authorities say nearly 20 illegal migrants of different nationalities were being harbored. Immigration Minister Keith Bell.
They would have uncovered a safe house the following day, where they would have revealed, I think, about 19 migrants of mixed nationalities who were attempting to be smuggled.
The revelation comes after an operation on Abaco ended with the promise of a crackdown on Abaco by the immigration minister. The operation revealed that the farm shantytown grew by an estimated 200 acres since Hurricane Dorian. Bell says people are still being placed before the courts from the discovery of that safe house. He reiterates a similar position.
They can see increased presence and they can anticipate increased operations, yes.
Operation Expedition came after South and Central Abaco Member of Parliament John Pinder expressed concern over the shantytown issue on that island. Since Hurricane Dorian destroyed the mud and pigeon pea shantytowns, officials say they're seeing the emergence of shantytowns in other areas of Marsh Harbor, like off Esseeboodle Highway. Bell made this plea to residents who he says are harboring these migrants.
I want to invite the Bahamian people. We too have to become caretakers for our borders, for our country, against unscrupulous persons, including Bahamians, because these persons are being facilitated by Bahamians. And so if you have any information, if you have any intelligence, then by all means, please call the police, please call your defense force or please call the immigration department, and we will act on your information.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Thanks, Berthany. The immigration minister also weighing in on that citizenship bill presented by Coalition of Independence leader Lincoln Baines, saying the bill has nothing new. Before he and a few supporters were arrested this week, Baines stood outside Parliament presenting envelopes to parliamentarians containing his party's draft amendment of the Bahamas Nationality Act. Bell says the topic calls for consultation.
What he is proposing is nothing new. It is something, again, which requires deep thought. In my view, it requires very, very widespread consultation with the Bahamian people to ensure that that is something we would want to put into our legislation.
Bell says the bill is now being referred to the Office of the Attorney General.
As you would appreciate, any person in the Bahamas, Bahamians that is, of course, has the right to actually bring or ask their members of parliament to consider a matter of public importance, significance, and in doing that, the appropriate thing to do would be to take it to the Office of the Attorney General. And so once I get feedback from the Office of the Attorney General, then we would review and consider it.
A 26-year-old police constable has been arrested and charged in connection with a stabbing that stemmed from a domestic dispute. Prosecutors allege that Shanton Bethel stabbed his 25-year-old friend Kramer Casanova in the head, forearm, and neck on October 19th. Casanova has since been released from the hospital. The incident allegedly happened 6 days after Bethel graduated from the police training college. Bain pleaded not guilty to the charge and grievous bodily harm at his arraignment before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt. He was granted a $5,000 bail with 1 or 2 sureties. The matter has been adjourned to December 19th. A day of demolition taking an unexpected turn after workers made a shocking find, a handgun and ammunition. Police say the workers were tearing down a building in the Chippingham area around midday on Wednesday when they found the gun and the ammunition in the ceiling of the building. Those workers turned the illegal items into police. Now, firearms are an issue for the Royal Bahamas Police Force. In 2021, more than 270 firearms and 3,200 rounds of ammunition were seized. Pleasant conditions outside the Our News studios. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with our current conditions. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Italia, and a happy TGIF Bahamas. Pretty nice on the outside right now. Temperatures at the 80-degree mark under partly cloudy skies. Your winds are out of the west at 6 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature at 85 degrees. Satellite view, frontal boundary parked across the central Bahamas. Showers and isolated thunderstorms associated with that boundary still affecting those portions of the country as well as the southeastern islands. There's also a low-pressure system across the northwest Bahamas that's developing. Should continue to keep things a little unstable across areas, so we're looking for more showers and isolated thunderstorms through tonight. And that low-pressure system will continue to track towards the northeast and away from us, but that will in turn pull a lot of moisture across areas. So more showers in the forecast tonight through tomorrow. That's your quick check on weather. Stick with us. A look at the tropics and your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, what members of the Bahamas Retail Grocers Association think about price control changes after meeting with the Prime Minister this week. And have you ever wondered where water in New Providence comes from? Our News takes you inside the Consolidated Water Bahamas plant. Plus, students make smart food choices when they become chefs for a day at a major resort. That's coming up when Our News returns. Some grocery retailers threatened to remove certain items off the shelves last week following the Prime Minister's announcement that 38 items have been added to the price control list. Well, those retailers had an opportunity to meet with the Prime Minister this week. Tonight, the attorney representing the Retail Grocers Association tells our Jamila Mizik how those discussions went.
News of 38 items being added to the price control list not sitting well with retail grocers throughout the islands, causing many of them to speak out about the move. This led to Prime Minister Philip Davis holding a meeting with the relevant stakeholders to hear their concerns. Attorney John Boswick, who represents the Bahamas Retail Grocers Association, says that meeting went well, noting that consultation was one of the major concerns expressed.
The fact is that they felt that if they had been consulted, they would have been able to say that the amendments as proposed would have been detrimental, in fact, diabolically detrimental to their business operations and their business models. So that is the main concern, is that the amendments as proposed were not economically feasible for them. And mainly because it wasn't as it appeared to be 35 items, but it was some 35 categories, which would have meant really over 4,000 items.
Now, as a result of that meeting, Boswick says the government has now engaged retailers and wholesalers in a consultation process.
Larger operators have asked the smaller operators to take the lead on this because it is them who's going to be most impacted. So with that, you're trying to get a consensus and an opinion from as far away as Inagua, Bimini, all through the inner cities of Nassau. And there are dozens, scores of businesses. We want to make sure everybody has a chance to have their say and have their concerns addressed.
Now, changes to those grocery items on price control were expected to take effect on October 17th, but those changes won't be made until after the consultation process.
Our retailers have not been trying to kill us and not been trying to take advantage of global inflationary prices. They have in fact been trying hard to keep it down because they consider themselves a part of the greater Bahamian community and they consider themselves a part of the Bahamian family. And so they don't want to have anything to divide them from their customers.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Missick.
Now, those grocery store operators have been given another extension to implement price control changes. OPM Communications Director Latrey Ramming making the announcement today.
We will extend the period of conversation to next week Friday. The government realized and recognized that we share the burden with all of our partners in this effort in the fight against the global economic crisis, so they will get an extension to next week Friday.
The government gave the association until today to return with a proposal after strong pushback against the move to add 38 items to the price control list. Now, earlier this week, Economic Affairs Minister Michael Halkitis said the meeting between the government and the association was fruitful.
What I can say is that the government recognized that we have to share the burden. The negotiations are ongoing. There is no final place that we have derived in the negotiations, so I suspect that the stakeholders will put to the government their concerns and the government will have to review any possible accommodation.
The 25th International Culture, Food and Wine Festival is back this weekend following a hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Some 26 booths will feature cuisine, delicacies, and beverages from around the world. A number of residents have, however, expressed concerns about parking logistics at the site. Festival President Janet Johnson says not only has that been taken care of, but all parking arrangements will be free of charge.
We have lots of parking in the area. When you come to the Collins Avenue area and the Shirley Street area, you'll see a lot of monitors on the streets. You'll see parking lots that are available. It's free, and we want you to be able to go avail yourselves of those parking spaces. There's also lots of on-the-street parking between here, Doswell Street, East Bay Street, Shirley Street, up and down Collins Avenue. There's lots.
Now, there's been unsettled weather over the past 2 days. However, Festival President Janet Johnson says the fun will continue.
We liken ourselves to Woodstock, which took place in the 60s back in New York. And so we're not troubled by that. We just get our drinks, go in a tent, take some shade, and when it clears up, we come out again. And that's been our tradition. So don't be bothered by that. It's part of nature. We welcome it.
When Our News comes back from the break, we take you inside the water plant supplying 30% of New Providence's water supply. The students of Uriah McPhee Primary School celebrates International Chef Day. The story when Our News returns. This is our news. Welcome back. The 31st Annual Caribbean Water and Waste Association Conference and Exhibition coming to a close today. Following a week-long of conference, some 50 Caribbean delegates got a first-hand look at the Consolidated Water Bahamas facility. Our Megan Shepard reports.
The Consolidated Water Bahamas Windsor Fields plant is responsible for supplying the island with 30% of its water needs, while the Blue Hill plant supplies the other 70%. General Manager Henderson Cash says their primary job is to produce bulk desalinated water for potable usage to households and businesses.
It produces 16 million imperial gallons of water per week and serves as a vital source of supply to water and sewages customers.
Consolidated Water Bahamas signed a public-private partnership with the government back in 2018. Cash added that they tried to operate the plant as energy efficient as possible.
It employs cutting-edge technology to be able to produce water with a very low energy footprint. Since desalination using reverse osmosis involves putting in energy to get an outcome, we strive to use the least possible amount of energy. And when I say energy, I'm talking, in the case, electricity and or diesel.
Parts of the island have been plagued with flooding issues in recent months, but Cash says the plant has not been affected.
This is built to withstand hurricane-rated winds of up to 130 miles per hour. We work in the sea. These are desalination facilities, so we're working with the most corrosive form of water in that sense. So our materials of selection, our ability to maintain and predict the maintenance requirements help to make sure we're reliable and sustainable.
The plant employs some 20 individuals, one of them being operations manager Owen Roll. He says the process from salty to freshwater happens in less than 1 minute.
I ensure that the facilities are up to scratch or up to speed when it comes to the guarantees of the contract. Okay, whenever the systems are falling below contract guarantee, we take them offline, we clean them, and then we bring them back up.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Thanks for that report, Megan. Now a look at sports. A busy weekend ahead for the UB athletic program as volleyball heads to Florida. The women's volleyball team practiced Thursday at the David Posnack Jewish Community Center in Davie, Florida, ahead of the team's Game 2 tour this weekend. The team takes on Atlantis University Friday night and Saturday afternoon in the Miami area. Now, this is the team's first international tour as UB Mingos. Assistant head coach Sidleen Justelin says the team shocked her in practice.
At first, I was kind of shaky that they would have been scared coming over for the first time to compete, but they proved me wrong. No, they look confident, they are ready, they are happy. I'm seeing the energy, I'm seeing the hustle. I think they're ready. I have no worries. I think our serving is going to be the strength of the team, but like I say already, passing it was not. It's on point, so we should be fine.
All right, sounds great. Meanwhile, men's basketball gearing up for Midnight Madness this weekend. Midnight Madness will mark the team's official kickoff scrimmage with the blue team taking on the white team. The game starts midnight on Saturday, and the doors of the Kendall Isaacs Gym will open at 11 p.m. Saturday night. UB men's basketball head coach Bacchus Roll says the team has not played a full uninterrupted season since 2019 and is ready to hit the court to show off what they have been working on.
We want to infuse some excitement about UB basketball and get the whole campus buzzing about what's going to be new and what's going to be different about this team. This team is going to be much faster. I'm excited about this group of guys. We have a real heady point guard that understands what we want to do. We're going to be moving up and down the floor very quickly. Wide open three-pointers are going to be there. Dave is a big shooter. Diallo is a great shooter. So we're going to see some good outside play. So, of course, we're going to do a lot of traffic.
Still ahead on our news tonight, a big day for Uriah Maxey students as they learn the ins and outs of healthy food choices at a major resort. Plus, quite a busy event weekend in the capital. Greg Thompson is back in the Weather Center on the other side of this break.
Welcome back to our news. Mostly sunny and pleasant conditions ahead this weekend. Greg is back in the Weather Center with your weekend weather planner. Greg?
Thanks again, Natalia, and welcome back, everybody. In the mid and upper levels of our atmosphere, we're still having that upper level trough dig across our area. That's continuing to provide us with some dry air mass across the northwest Bahamas, but that southwesterly flow is bringing a lot of moisture across the central and southeast Bahamas, and that will continue to keep things a little unsettled across that area. But there's a low pressure system that's developing across the northwest Bahamas. We expect that to eject out towards the north and east and away from us, but that will in turn keep the surface frontal boundary across the area. So we're looking at more showers and thunderstorms across mainly the central and southeastern Bahamas, and we could see some pop-up showers and isolated thunderstorms across the northwest Bahamas as the system continues to hang across our area, at least for another day. High pressure behind that and a dry air mass will eventually push the system out towards the east, so we're looking at some improving conditions for next week, but a couple of upper level disturbances will move along that boundary over the next couple of days before things clear out. The tropics quiet. We have, about 5 weeks left in the Atlantic, the official Atlantic hurricane season, and of course we had 11 named storms already. A couple of tropical waves out there, one just off the, southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands, generating some widespread showers, disorganized at this time. Another one coming off the African coast, and that should be moving off the coast by the end of the weekend and into early next week. The remainder of the tropics quiet, and tropical cyclone formation is not expected through the next several days. Boating forecast for the northwest Bahamas. A small craft caution is in place for you guys, mainly across the extreme northwest Bahamas. Your winds will be north to northeast at 15 to 20 knots, seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. Your low tide will be at 5 minutes past midnight tonight. For the central and southeast Bahamas, the south to southwesterly flow continues at 10 to 15 knots. Those winds will fall light and variable at times. Your seas will be running 2 to 4 feet over open waters. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your 7-day forecast, isolated showers and thunderstorms in the forecast through tomorrow. Temperatures will start to warm up, so we should see some temperatures in the mid to upper 80s, where we're hanging out in the mid 80s after that frontal boundary passed through us. Disturbance, 1 or 2 of them moving through our area, so we could see a couple of isolated showers into early next week, and then there's another disturbance by the middle of next week generating some more showers. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night and have a great weekend.
Thanks so much, Greg. And now to an interesting story, as chefs at the Atlantis Resort were substitute teachers for a day. 75 students from the Uriah McPhee Primary School took a trip to the local resorts in celebration of International Chef Day. Jamila Mizik has the story.
Healthy living is the theme for this year's International Chef Day. Atlantis Executive Director of Human Resources responsible for food and beverage, Horatio McKenzie, says it was important to teach the youngsters how to make healthier eating choices.
If we educate the kids now, they could foster a better, healthy living as they grow. So instead of targeting adults who have to, make their own choices, we thought we would target the kids, and then the kids, as they grow, can help educate other kids on making healthier selections.
VP of Culinary at Atlantis Resort, Alan O'Reilly, says they made the sessions as interactive and hands-on as possible.
We have them inside learning about different vegetables and fruits and what kind of vitamins in each of those, and then what they can do at home with a few recipes. We can send them home with some. And of course we have the our NGO here working with the Blue Ocean Project, and they're showing them different mangroves and what the importance of mangroves are. They get to touch some starfish, some sea turtles, and it's just a really highly educational day.
Now the youngsters were treated to a number of surprises. One of them, they got to be chefs for a day making their own sushi at a live sushi station.
He showed us how to put this on, the gloves, and we got to try sushi, soy sauce on the sushi because some of them didn't try it before, especially with vegetables. It was wonderful.
Of course, we want to have young chefs for the future, and this is a great place for them to start. Learning about not only how to eat properly, but also how to prepare food safely and the importance of why it's good for you.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
All right, great initiative, and the food looks great. And thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.